All right, good morning, Dr. Dewsbury. Hope you're having an outstanding day today. My name is Jonathan King, and today I will be going over my final projects for the Masters of Teaching 2020-2021 program. My final project will focus on exercise and its correlation to academic achievement. So a brief overview of what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to go ahead and start off with a statement of the problem. I'll be stating my research hypothesis, as well as doing a brief literature overview. We'll be moving on to method/action plan, which will specifically look at participants, instruments, research design, threats to validity, as well as procedure. We'll be moving on to results, looking at different charts and tables and analyzing that data, and then moving on to our final section, which is our discussion, looking at resulting action. So, statement of the problem. The question that I have here is there a direct correlation between exercise and academic achievement? Now, this pandemic has caused an increase in a multitude of problems when looking at the educational area. Due to the increase in COVID-19, there has been a decrease in physical activity for students, along with a decrease in academic achievement. And I can speak for my school and speaking to the teachers on campus. We've actually, because of COVID-19, we've had to take PE out of the elementary area and just implement it within middle school. And the teachers themselves have told me there's been a huge increase in not only behavior issues, but a decrease in focus and academic achievement. And that's just looking at school, kind of looking at the data. You can see also there's a correlation as well in other schools and other places around the world where there has been a decrease in academic achievement. You can see partly that's because of distance learning, but schools that have been open recently are still seeing that issue because there's a lack of PE amongst these schools. I love this quote by John F. Kennedy, and he says, "Physical fitness is not only one of the most important keys to a healthy body, it is the basis of dynamic and creative intellectual activity." So my research hypothesis is providing students with 10 to 15 minutes of physical activity before school will have a positive effect on students' focus and academic performance in the class. So kind of to go over this brief literature review, and I love a lot of these studies. You're looking at the International Journal of School and Cognitive Psychology, as well as the Journal of Physical Activity and Health. The first study was done in Malaysia, focusing on about 750 students, and they looked at how exercise and habitual strength exercises fosters academic achievement and buffered the effect of stress, depression, and anxiety on student academic performance. So they focus on how exercise can help alleviate depression, stress, and anxiety, and by alleviating those variables, you can then see an increase in academic performance, and we've seen that in our school and our location as well. Study 2 looked at the intervention of exercise and how it holds merit to improve academic results. They found that an increase in what we call BDNF has been obtained in association with cognitive and emotional benefits. They also looked at how exercise elevated neuroplasticity relating in proteins, BDNF, and insulin like growth factor, which is huge in looking at students' ability to learn. The study also found that physical activity might not only lead to better grades, but also enhanced well-being and the ability to keep moving forward towards a goal and motivating the individual to take action and control of their life. And then lastly, one of my favorite books, Spark. I have it right here with me. Spark looked at a specific district in Chicago, the Naperville district, and what they did is have what they call the zero period right before school, where students go through what you would say circuit training, or you can call it circuit training. And what they found that students, once they started doing that, there was a huge increase in academic performance. And there's a test that students take internationally. It's what we call the TIMSS test, the TIMSS, and it looks at their scores in math and science. And what they found that this school scored up with the best in the top 10 in countries such as Singapore, Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Japan. And that school was kind of the outlier compared to other schools in the United States that were scoring well, close to last, and not even near close to the top 10. And they found that as these students began to begin this exercise program, they started to do better, not only in their behavior and their focus in the classroom, but overall in these international tests, they were scoring amongst the best in the world. So looking at the amount of participants, 7th grade, we had about 27 students, 18 boys, 10 girls. 6th grade math had about 28 students, 12 boys, 16 girls. 7th grade Spanish, there was about 19 students, 14 boys, 5 girls. And then lastly, 6th grade English had about 13 students, 6 boys, 7 girls. Looking more specifically at the ethnic distribution, it's about 80% white, 2% African American, and 18% other. On average, students are of middle to upper middle socioeconomic status. So some of the instruments utilized in the study was a math quiz, English quiz, and Spanish quiz. Each of one of those quizzes was 10 questions long. So looking at the research design, it was a quasi-experimental, non-equivalent group design. The groups were randomly assigned, and 3 groups were tested in each subject area. X represents students that were exposed to the treatment of exercise, about that 10 to 15 minutes of running. And then O represents non-exposed treatments, were the students that actually stayed in the classroom and did not have any form of physical activity prior to taking the quiz. So the procedure, kind of the breakdown was this. On March 3rd, students were administered the quiz in one of the subject areas below, either English, math, or Spanish. March 4th, students were administered a quiz in a different subject area than the previous day. March 5th, students were administered their last quiz from a subject they had not taken previously. Each quiz, to keep it kind of streamlined, was administered at the same time each morning at 9 a.m. So some of the threats to validity, more specifically internal validity, was one, history, right? Emergent bilinguals and SPED students were pulled out of class for one-on-one instruction, which we didn't anticipate. Masturation, some students were exhausted after running and tired quickly on the quiz. As far as instrumentation, many of my students are English language learners and may have struggled with understanding the questions on the quiz. And then lastly, selection of masturation interaction. Some of the students might have caught on and realized why they were exercising before class and tried harder or less on the quiz. Looking at external validity, ecological validity, testing environment may have had an effect on experimental results. So they may have a different testing environment in each one of those subject areas. And then generalizability, with further research results of the study may be applicable to individuals and circumstances beyond those studied. So kind of focusing on the implications, emergent bilingual may have had a hard time reading such answering the quizzes, as we talked about previously. More time might have been required. And then lastly, further research definitely needs to be needed in this area. So focusing on the results and the analysis. So based on the results, there was a moderate relationship between runners and non-runners and the results on test scores. So first focusing on the English results. Blue line representing non-runners, the red line representing the runners. You can see there's a slight increase in the amount of students that did well on the quiz. Moving on to math, blue representing no physical activity before the quiz, and red representing physical activity. You can see there's a slight increase in their scores amongst the students that scored close to perfect on it. And then as far as Spanish, you can see this is kind of an outlier. Blue representing no physical activity and red representing physical activity. There was a students that had no prior activity before the quiz actually did a little bit better. So looking at the overall analysis and looking at this kind of scatter chart, you can see that students did slightly better and averaged a slightly better test score than the students that had no physical activity. Looking at the average was about a 9.47 or 9.5 for students that exercised before the quiz, and the average score for students that did not have any physical activity before the quiz averaged about 9.09 or 9.1 of a correlation of about 0.944. So kind of looking at the data, analyzing what I did, what I would do differently. In the study, exercise you can tell played a small role in the students' academic achievement. I think with the incorporation of consistent physical activity before school, I believe we will be able to see more clear evidence of academic achievement. I really do believe that. If I were to kind of do it differently, I probably most likely would have had students exercise for about a month and then potentially have them take a quiz at the end of the month, seeing what are the long-term effects of exercise on students' behavior, focus, and test scores. And I definitely think further research is needed to analyze exercise and not only focus on academic achievement, but focus on students' energy throughout the school day and their focus on their work. And I think with more daily exercise should be incorporated into students' daily routine, not only for the achievement, the academic benefits, but as well as the health benefits for students. Some of my references here that I've listed. And then I just want to thank you so much for watching. One of my favorite quotes here is by Plato. He says, in order for man to succeed in life, God provided him with two means, education and physical activity. Not separately, one for the soul and the other for the body, but for the two together. With these two means, man can attain perfection. And I think this is a picture of my students here in Halloween, after the day after or the day of Halloween. And I think my students are taking on that concept and they're understanding the role physical activity plays in their life, that it plays a part in their mental and emotional health, it plays a part in their physical health, their social health, and so on and so much. And so I want to thank you so much. I've learned so much in this program. I've applied so much what I've learned not only in this course, but in the many courses that I've taken thus far in this program, and I've applied it into my lessons, into my units, and I'm looking forward to further developing with this knowledge, further developing the curriculum and the lessons that I incorporate in my students' lives. So thank you so much. Have an outstanding day.